Hello, everybody. This is Esther Nagel of Balance and Breathe, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about stress. This is something I've talked about quite a lot. It's a bit of a hot topic for me, and it is also a bit of a hot topic in the news at the moment. Well, it was a couple of days ago. It was actually, when was it? On the 11th. So it was a week ago, but I only saw it yesterday. But what prompted the decision to do this live stream today was that I read yesterday an article in the Daily Mirror that said that stressed workers have been taking more time off. Stress is actually causing more days off, more illness, more unhappiness, more problems, and more time lost in the workplace than in the previous year. And it's actually gone up by 800,000 work days in the year. More than 500,000 people last year suffering from depression, stress, or anxiety felt so bad that they weren't able to turn up for work. And I think that is an absolute travesty. I think this is an absolutely shocking situation that we are finding ourselves in. And this article really worried me because one of the causes, one of the factors that they talked about in this was the impact that Brexit is having on the economy of Britain and on people's jobs. Lack of confidence in the market, nobody knows quite what's going to happen. Jobs are being cut, contracts aren't being renewed. The Brexit is having a huge impact on the workplace. I haven't even got there yet. So this really worries me. Because, it wasn't in this article, it was in a different article that I read. But it really worried me because if it's having this much of an effect now, before we've even actually left the EU, I think we're looking at things are going to get worse, not better. So if the economy and the workplace pressures are going to increase, we need to look at ways that we can manage that. So I wanted to talk about stress and about what stress is, and to share with you some ways that you can manage stress in your day-to-day life to help you deal with the pressures that come at you in your life, to deal with the problems that come, and so that you if your job is getting tougher, if life gets a little harder for us all in the UK, I think it's not just the UK. We have our own unique problems in the UK, but, life is getting harder across the world for lots and lots of people, for lots and lots of reasons. So if you can find strategies to help you manage stress better, then you can prevent it having an impact on your health, because these things are going to happen. And the only thing that we can do, we can lobby and protest, and there is activism that can be done to try and change things in the political sphere, but also we have to live on a day-to-day basis. So the developing the resilience to cope with what life throws at us is very important. So first of all, I think it's important to understand what stress is and why it has such an impact. Stress is basically, it's a survival instinct. It's a survival mechanism that we have in our brain, in our nervous system, that when our life is under threat, the central nervous system kicks in the stress response. And the stress response triggers a whole hormonal chain reaction that increases the heart rate, that changes the pupils, it dilates the pupils. I've got them written down here just to make sure. So it increases the heart rate, the breathing changes, and the blood vessels that are supplying the digestive system get tightened, and our muscles get tightened up so that they're ready for action. the blood pressure rises, the senses, we become much more kind of tuned into the senses, our sensory information. And rational thinking kind of goes by the by. We run on instinct when we get stressed. We run on emotions. And I can, already you can think that that's why, if you think about when you get stressed, if you get stressed or if you're upset about something, you might find yourself snapping at your as husband, or shouting at the children, or you drive too fast, or you slam doors, you act in ways that you wouldn't otherwise act when you're not stressed, because you're not using your brain you're not using the intelligent part of your brain, you're using the emotional part of your brain, and that they're very different things. So these changes in the body, they're very helpful when you are in a situation where you need to be able to think fast, where you need to be able to react instinctively, where you need to be able to run, where you need to be able to fight. If your life is under threat, you need to be able to take immediate action and not have to spend too long weighing up the pros and cons of, do I run or do I stay? So there is a very vital place for the stress response in our survival. But where the problem comes with that is when it's ongoing stress. The stress response is meant to be a quick burst of the stress response, and then we're meant to come back down to relaxation. In the sort of, in our ancestors' days and our early ancestors, there would have been a threat to their life. The saber-toothed tiger, there would have been a threat to their life. Flight or fight would have kicked in. They would have either run like the clappers away from the source of the threat, or they would have fought it, and then they would have either died or they would have had a big meal. And in which case, all of those cases, the stress would end. Once you were far enough away, you would be able to know that you were safe and you could relax. If you were able to kill the threat, then you would, you could enjoy a nice meal. And, if the tiger ate you, then you're not stressed anymore. But in modern times, modern times now, life is quite very stressful. We've got all these different things bombarding us, all these different reasons to be stressed all the time. We've got busy work lives. We're supposed to be able to do all of these things. We've got marketing and advertising constantly telling us we're not this enough, we're not this enough, we're not good enough, we're not thin enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not blah, blah, blah. Buy stuff. And that's stressful. Prices of things are going up, wages are going down, life is getting harder, and it's all very stressful. Traffic on the road, you're late for work, you get stuck in traffic, your stress levels rise before you even get into the office. So you're starting your working day before you even get to work. You could be stressed. And once you're in that place, and then you go into more stress, you're never able to come down from that stress. And so you're living in this kind of high stress, high pressure state all the time. And there's no come down from it. So your heart rate is constantly working harder. Your muscles are on edge and tense all the time. And your rational thinking isn't always there. So stress, constant stress that what a lot of people live under now is really, really, really bad for the health. Because if you imagine that constant pressure on the heart, that constantly raised blood pressure, the constricting of the blood vessels, feeding your digestive system, that's really not helping your digestion. And we've got people at varying levels of stress. There are people who are stressed because they have very high pressure jobs, and then there are people who are stressed because they can't get a job, and it's all stress, constant stress. And stress just impacts everything else in our life. There is nothing that, if you're stressed, there is no aspect of your life that isn't going to impact on some level. It's going to affect your work. It's going to affect things like how productive you are. It's going to affect your ability to concentrate, to come up with creative ideas and problem solving. It's going to affect your relationships with your colleagues. If your management and your stress, that's going to filter down to your staff. In the article in the Mirror that I read yesterday, it said that 40%, no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one, 44% of the reasons for people's stress was too much on their plate, too heavy workload. You know, people are losing their jobs, and then the people that are left are having to fill that, to carry on doing that work because the jobs still need to be done. But 14% said that there was lack of managerial support. So poor management is a big factor for stress, but it could be that that manager is also dealing with their own stress, and the stress is sort of trickling down to the rest of the staff. Stress affects your health. I mean, I've already covered some of the ways that it affects the body, and if this is carrying on a regular basis, it affects the health permanently, long term. Maybe not permanently, you can restore it, but it can be a long-term problem. Stress is actually, I found some statistics. In America, 75% of doctor visits are stress-related conditions. I didn't find any UK stats, but I would imagine that it's probably similar. The American Psychological Association found that stress is a contributory factor in the 6 biggest killer diseases that we have, that are, you know, the biggest killers in the Western world. So there's heart disease, lung conditions, cancer, accidents, cirrhosis of the liver, and suicide. They are the 6 biggest killers of people in the West, in America, perhaps, rather than the West. But that's quite a scary statistic. The stress is actually a contributory factor to all of those conditions. Stress has an impact on the brain, the physiological functioning of the brain and the mental health aspects of the brain. It affects the thyroid, and the thyroid controls your energy, your metabolism. I think it affects an awful lot more than that. I'm most aware of the metabolism aspect of it. It changes your blood sugar levels, and it affects your blood pressure, and stress lowers your immunity. So if you're constantly stressed, you're more likely to get ill, which of course adds then to the stress, because if you get ill and you have to take time off work, or you feel like you can't take time off work and keep pushing on, you're just making the problems worse. Stress also, it creates the abdominal fat. I read that the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, actually causes you to gain fat around the middle, and that is a contributory factor. That's an indicator, I think they're called, for heart attack, stroke, and the harmful type of cholesterol. I've written something else down here, but I can't read my writing, so I don't know. It is another thing that it does, that it affects, but I actually can't read my writing there. So apologies for that. So stress, as you can see, stress is a really, really big problem. And if you are feeling like you are constantly stressed, or if you have a short burst of stress, it can actually be very productive. But if it's ongoing, day after day after day after day, it's just grinding you down, and it's going to adversely affect your health. It's going to affect your relationships, because you're going to be snappy with people. You're going to find it hard to talk to people. And it affects your self-esteem as well, because we tend to judge ourselves on what we do and how we are and how we show up in the world. And so if you are stressed and you're feeling like you're not working to your potential, that you're not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, that you're not coping, that's going to affect how you see yourself. And then that kind of leads to feelings of shame and not being good enough. And it can be really hard to talk to people about that. And I'm speaking from personal experience here, that this does actually become a barrier between yourself and the people that you're closest to. You don't want to admit that you're not coping. You don't want to admit it to anybody. And it can be really, really hard. So, you know, stress has led to breakdowns of relationships. It can cause families problems. It can cause problems in marriage. It trickles out into every aspect of your life. And so if you are feeling very stressed, it is really important that you can try and do something about it. Now, if this is work-related stress, then the first thing to look at is, you know, is there any way that you can talk to your employer and see if there's anything that they could do to help? Because if you're under extreme stress in the workplace, then, you know, your employer has a duty of care to you, and they should want to take care of you. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. Who knows? I would hope that most employers would want to take care of the people that are earning the money. So the first port of call would be to talk to your employer, talk to, if you've got a union rep, talk to the people that can help you within the organization, and see if there's anything that can be done from an organizational perspective. If that is not possible, and I know that there are so many reasons why that might not be possible, then there are things that you can do to just help yourself to kind of counter the physical effects of the stress, to help you to develop coping strategies so that you can get through these difficult times. I'm just going to take this scarf off because I'm getting warm. I've just been out for a walk and I'm not as cold now as I was when I was outside, funnily enough. So I'm going to just talk you through a couple of things. Now, these are not going to be things that will be a surprise to anybody if you've listened to any of my videos, read any of my blog posts. They're going to be things that I've talked about before, but they are effective coping strategies. They're ways that you can keep your body calm and balanced on a day-to-day basis, and they're also tools that are great to turn to in moments of stress. So the first one is my old favorite, deep breathing. I love talking about breathing. I love to teach people to breathe. My big ambitious goal is to teach 1 million people to breathe across the world. So I do love to talk about breathing. And deep breathing is a really powerful tool for managing and reducing and actually longer term balancing out your stress levels. Because as I mentioned, when we get stressed, the breath becomes very shallow and very rapid. And that is very much the stressful type of breathing. But the trouble is, a lot of us breathe like that anyway. And if you can learn to breathe deeper, then you're going to give your body, not just you're going to give your body more oxygen and get rid of more carbon dioxide. So at a very basic level, you're going to be helping the health of your body. But when you take those lovely deep breaths, you actually trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and relaxation response. So, you know, when we talk about taking a deep breath and count to 10 when you're in a stressful situation, and it really does work. There is a reason why that is one of the biggest cliches of trying to calm somebody down when they're upset, because it actually really does work. You take a deep breath and really fill your lungs, that's not taking a deep breath. You see people doing that sometimes, but really focus on the chest area and breathing down into the abdominal area. So your belly expands as you breathe in, and really try and fill every space in your lungs as much as you're comfortable to do. And then release that air so that you're letting out all of the air that is in your lungs as much as you possibly can, and really focus on emptying that lung. And you will start to calm down, because that not just fills your lungs with oxygen, not just fills your brain and your muscles and every other part of you with oxygen, but it also triggers the relaxation hormones, forgotten the name of the hormone now, but it actually reduces the cortisol level and helps you to relax. So when I do this sometimes if I'm in a car, if I'm in traffic in the car, every time you stop at a red light, instead of getting angry because you're at a red light, particularly helpful if you're late for work or if you're rushing, you think you're going to be late for work, or you're just in the morning commute that you hate so much, and it really, and that morning commute is horrible. I've done it. I haven't done it for ages now, but every time I have to go in the morning, I think, God, I'm so glad I don't have to do this anymore, because it is horrible. And if you, instead of focusing on how horrible it is to be stuck in your car, getting stuck at lights, getting stuck in traffic every 5 minutes, every time you have to stop, if you take a few deep breaths, you're going to get really calm. You're going to energize yourself. You're going to end up feeling a lot happier, a lot more focused. So when you do get to work, you're in a much healthier state of mind. And if you start your day in that nice calm space, full of oxygen, plenty of carbon dioxide out of your body, and you're in that relaxed frame of mind, then you probably find that the rest of the day goes a lot easier. You can also do that deep breathing in a quiet sitting, meditative kind of practice where you sit on the floor or on a hardback chair like I'm doing now, and you just close your eyes and you just focus on your breath, just keeping your attention on the breath, and just breathing in and out slowly and deeply, and keeping your mind focused on the breath. You're breathing, and whenever your mind goes wandering off, which it will go wandering off, you start thinking about all kinds of really bizarre random things, just gently bring the mind back to the breath, and keep doing that for a few minutes. And that is such a powerful way to calm your mind. It also teaches you to teaches the mind to learn to let go of thoughts, which is one of the things that we tend to do when you're stressed, when you're depressed, when you're anxious. You might have the same thought going round and round and round and round in your head, and having that focus on the breath helps to train the mind to be able to let go of the repeating thought, which is a very, very powerfully helpful thing to train your brain to do. So connecting to that and being around that awareness of the thought, actually becoming aware of your body, your thoughts, and your emotions, and the connection between those, that is a really huge help. If you can notice, like, for example, one of the things that I've noticed is that I sometimes sit with my shoulders quite hunched. And that in turn hurts my shoulders, and it actually makes me feel like I'm quite stressed. It's quite a stressed kind of posture. And my posture affects how I feel, as does yours. So if I'm sitting like this and I'm feeling really hunched up like that, that affects how I feel. So now I've started to notice when I'm doing it, and I drop my shoulders down. So I was quite shocked when I realized how much I do this. I still do it a lot now, but I very quickly noticed that I'm doing it, because I've noticed that it does have an impact on my emotions and what I think. So if you can start to notice your body, and then this breathing practice is a really, really good way to start to notice your body, because your breathing is, it's an automatic function of the body and of the mind. We don't have to pay attention to the breath, but when you do, you become really connected with it, and you become really connected with your body, and you become more aware of how you're breathing and how your breath is affecting you. And it's a really, it really helps to just ground you in the moment when you connect to your breath, because, we need to breathe. It's quite important to breathe. I know you know that. But we don't take any notice of it. We need food and we need water. And there's a whole lot of functions that go on in our body that we don't take any notice of, and they're all vital. Most of those we can't control. We can control our breath, and we can become we can kind of gain some sort of mastery over it, and that's really, really powerful, and makes you feel really good when you can focus on your breath. There's something that's just sort of on the tip of my tongue there, and I can't quite get out what I want to say, but I'm sure it'll come to me about 20 minutes after I finish this. So connecting to your mind and your body and your emotions, and noticing the difference between the two. So, for example, be aware, when you're feeling stressed, when you're anxious and stressed, stop and think, right, what's my body feel like right now? What am I thinking about right now? What am I feeling in this moment? And just try and bring a little bit of awareness to what you're doing and to how you're feeling, how your body's feeling. And just notice, where in your body do you feel that stress? When you get stressed and angry, do you feel it most in your stomach? Do you feel it? I sometimes notice that if I get really stressed, I kind of feel it in my arms. It feels like my arms feel like I've done a load of weightlifting or something. I never do weightlifting, but that's how I imagine it would feel if I'd done a load of lifting barbells or something. That I get this tension up my arms. And so I've noticed I might not actually feel like I'm stressed, but my arms do. So I kind of think, right, okay, well, maybe there's something going on that I'm not entirely aware of, but my body knows. Because sometimes our bodies can tell us how we're feeling, and but the more you learn to pay attention to it, the more you can kind of preempt these things that are happening. Which, on an interesting note, I've discovered something really cool about the body. I got this for Christmas. It's a Fitbit. I love it. It's one of the best Christmas presents. Amazing toy. It's making me walk so much. But one of the things that I noticed, now I wrote a blog post a couple of days after Christmas about how much sleep I seem to be needing. I seem to be needing a lot of sleep, a lot more than I realized. And and then I started to feel better. My heart rate started to come down. And now it's kind of evened out a little bit. And I don't need as much sleep as I needed in those first couple of days. So what I've realized, this is a theory at the moment. Well, I know about the heart rate. What I realized is probably because I was starting to get ill, my body needed more sleep. And when you start to get ill, a couple of days before the symptoms show, your heart rate increases because your body is trying to fight the illness before you even know about it. So I thought that was fascinating. I love my Fitbit, and I am a little bit obsessed with tracking my heart rate now. So I want to see if the heart rate and sleep thing actually comes out again. Anyway, that was a massive tangent. I do apologize. I've just gone off on a tangent about Fitbits there. So just talked about awareness, and there is loads more that can be said about awareness, and maybe it's a whole live stream in itself to talk about that. But maybe I'll do that another time. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is gratitude. And gratitude, I've talked about before lots. I've written lots of blog posts about it, but it is worth talking about lots because there's been a whole load of research done around the benefits of regularly practicing gratitude, regularly listing your reasons to be grateful, regularly looking for reasons to feel grateful in life. And it is such a game changer. It really, really does change how you're looking at the world. So, if you're, and it's connected with this concept that I love in yoga as well, called Pratipaksha Bhavana, which is replacing the negative with the positive. So, for example, if you're stuck in traffic on your way to work and it's pouring with rain and it's horrible, it's a horrible, wet, rainy day and you're in the traffic jam on your way to work, you take your deep breaths, you practice your awareness, you stay in the moment, and you could think, at least I don't have to walk to work. and that, and you can be grateful for your car. You can be grateful for you're listening to the radio, you're listening to your music. You'd be grateful for the fact that you've got petrol in the car. You can be grateful for the fact that you were able to put petrol in the car. Grateful for the fact that oh, whenever, however many years ago, somebody invented a car so that you could be in a car today. You know, you can really go as deep or as shallow into gratitude practice as you like. You could, you know, from looking at, I'm glad I got into the car on time this morning, to I'm glad for, thank you for Henry Ford and his amazing invention. It all helps to help you to come out of the space of looking at the negative side, which creates stress, and look into the positive, which obviously creates happiness and a sense of well-being. And there has been lots of research around gratitude, and it has been proven to reduce stress, because if you are feeling genuinely grateful for something, it's quite hard to feel stressed at the same time, as long as you don't put a but in your gratitude. So, you know, I am very grateful for this, but I wish this. That's not grateful. That's not focusing on the positive. But if you just say, I am very grateful for, you know, I am very grateful for my broadband because it means I get to talk to you tonight. But if I was to put on the end of that, I am very grateful for my broadband, but I wish it was cheaper, that's not really being very grateful. So when you're doing your gratitude practice, make sure that you don't put any buts in it, because the word but kind of makes what you say first meaningless in some ways. You know, there's always a condition, isn't it? And there's not really conditions with gratitude. Gratitude is just being grateful. And when you're listing your things that you're grateful for, it can be anything. You know, I am grateful for the air around me. I am grateful for the electricity that's in that light switch. I am grateful to my mum for making me that. I'm grateful that my mum likes quilting because she made me that wall hanging behind me. I am very grateful for the housing association, for the fact that I have this house. I am very grateful for whoever made the table that I got my laptop on. And, you know, it can be things that are intensely personal, or it can be things that are completely universal and that are actually no personal gift to you, but they are actually making your life be what you want it to be. So gratitude is, you know, it is such a powerful practice. So whether you can, there are a couple of ways you can approach gratitude. You can list, at least, you know, sit down every morning or every night and write in your notebook 5 things you're grateful for. You can jot things down throughout the day. Whenever something good happens, write it down. You can have your gratitude jar. I know a lot of people do that. They have a gratitude jar and they put the happy things and the lovely things in the jar. They write them down, put them in the jar. And then at the end of the year, reflect back on what all the beautiful good things that have happened throughout the year. One lovely bit of advice is to have a stone in your pocket, and every time your fingers touch that stone, look for something to be grateful for. That is really good, because it means that you're constantly thinking about it throughout the day. And the more you look for things to be grateful for, the more your brain will start to notice the things that are good, instead of always looking for the negative. You know, if your brain is kind of hardwired to always look for the negative because that's how you look at the world, you can easily change it. And with gratitude practice, you can change it so that you're looking for the positives in life, and then you start to see them. Just like, you know, if you buy a purple car, you'll see purple cars everywhere. That's the example everybody uses. And it's actually true, because I had a Nissan Micra back in September, a grey Nissan Micra. Never noticed, the most nondescript car, you know, apart from it looks a bit like a grey frog. So it's not completely nondescript. But I had never noticed. When my brother told me it was a Nissan Micra that I was having, I had to even look it up because I didn't know what they looked like. And now they're everywhere. It's almost like the entire on the nose and Nissan Micra. They are everywhere. And so it is true, you know, once something is in your field of awareness, you do start to notice it more. So if you're looking for positive things in life, you're going to find them. So that is a really powerful way to reduce stress and boost happiness. So, you know, you can do that throughout your stressful working day. You can do it throughout your whatever it is that causes you stress in your life, you can use gratitude, and you can use your deep breathing, you can use your awareness to check in on how you're feeling. And those things, if they become regular practices, they will help you to become more resilient in the face of life's stress. And I'm going to finish now, but I wanted to give you, if you haven't already had this, I've written a short ebook which is called I can't even remember the exact title now, but it's 8 tips to help you beat stress. It's aimed at women, but the tips are all valid for, then it's not just for women. I've just written it that way because it's purple and pretty. But it's 8 tips that will help you to reduce stress in your busy day. And at the bottom of the screen now, which is just there, I've put the URL where you can get that ebook. You sign up and you will be on my email list then. There is a series of follow-up emails which go into a little bit more detail about how the tips work, give you a little bit more information, and talk you through actually making those practices in your life. So, it's a helpful little ebook, and it's a helpful follow-up series as well. You can unsubscribe at any time. And if you, if you ever want to talk to me, you can reply to my emails, and you can message me on here as well. So I'm going to leave you now. If there's any comments, if there's any questions, I will just wait for 1 minute. I don't know what the lag time is on this. But if there's no questions, no comments, I'm going to go now. And if you do watch this later and you have any questions, then by all means, feel free to get in touch. Drop me a message on Facebook, and I will reply to you as soon as possible. So I'm going to go now. Have a lovely evening, and be well and keep breathing. See you soon. Bye.